Hello, and welcome to Making It, a podcast about making things with your bare hands, hosted by Jimmy Diresta, Bob Clagett, and myself, David Picciuto. And we're going to get this started by talking about what we're working on. Jimmy, what you got going on?
Well, I got a couple of videos that I've been working on. I don't have any crazy client work, but I just built a box. If you guys follow my Instagram, you'll notice I did this thing with kind of small box joints, and it's kind of cool. It's a gift for a celebrity. I was hired by a friend to make this gift for a celebrity. So I'm excited, and I am making a video about it. And as soon as I'm able to say who it was for and what it was, a Christmas gift, so I can't obviously reveal anything, we'll post the video until after Christmas. But I'm excited about that, and I just worked on that today. And so it's that box joint video, it's that box joint picture on my Instagram.
I would imagine that celebrity listens to this podcast, right?
Most likely.
Oh, I hope so. No, hopefully he will after he finds out I made it for him. No, but it's cool. It's a cool little gig, and so far the person who hired me is extremely happy.
Cool. So, do you do any Christmas gifts for friends and family, like making stuff in your shop?
Honestly, not too much. I thankfully I am in a situation where Christmas gifts are not really necessary. Like, I have no children. My nieces and nephews don't expect anything from me, which is great. And but I did get Taylor a set of chisels this week from Lee Valley, and since she opens my mail, she opened the box and goes, "Oh, look, they sent you chisels." I said, "Well, that was for you." I got the chisels that are like the relief carving chisels that I think it's the handle with like the three little rings and the three little bumps in the middle. So the chisel is in the handle as opposed to the chisel being over the handle.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So,
cool.
Bob, what are you working on?
I just finished up a bed. This is actually like the biggest project for a video I think I've ever done. And I posted earlier on Twitter that I've collated the footage for it so far. It's not even really finished. There's still a bunch of other short things I have to do. But I have almost 2 hours of footage to start editing.
Oh, man.
Oh, wow. I just did that with the Crown Royal. It's a nightmare.
Yeah. So the next several days, I got to have the video up on Monday, or on Sunday. So next several days are going to be like crazy editing. But anyway, it's a king-size bed, and it's got storage, 3 drawers on each side that pull out. And then the whole thing is faced with some 12-inch barnwood that I got from Kentucky from my grandparents.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's really nice. These big slabs of oak. So.
Is that the wood that you were gluing back together on your Instagram?
Yeah, it's a nice long piece, but it had a split from both ends that almost met in the middle. So, you know, it was staying together, but just barely. Like, you could flex it and it would snap in half. So, yeah, I had to like glue the entire thing back together.
Yeah, that's what it's like when you work with recycled wood and stuff. Sometimes it's just split. You just glue it back together, and it was like it was never broken.
Yeah, and it's getting all braced. You know, it's just wrapping this bed, so it's braced from the backside and everything. So it's not going to take any weight or any of that stuff. But yeah, so I did that, and then in the process of this morning, I decided to. Well, a couple weeks ago, I decided to have some electrical work done in my shop to have some more circuits added. And the electrician called this morning and said, "Hey, I'm free. Can I come do it now?" And so, in the middle of this build, my shop just got turned upside down. Everything is like on top of the table. Everything's pulled away from the walls. It's a complete mess. So tomorrow I get to edit and rebuild my shop.
Oh, wow.
Oh, it's wonderful.
So I'm going from running my entire shop off of one 15-amp circuit to 2 20-amp circuits.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
Oh, that's good.
Do you have any 220 power tools?
No, I don't. No. I've kind of avoided them, actually, because I didn't want to have to deal with it.
Yeah, that's the reason I bought the table saw that I did. Like, in reality, I wish I would have got the 220 one because of my situation now. I needed to stick to 110. As far as how big the bed is your shop big enough to build these big projects?
Oh, no.
No.
Not even close. No, the way I built it was each side is a cabinet, and then there's some cross braces that go through the middle. So I was able to build each one of the cabinets in the space that I had, and then take them and the braces up to the bedroom and, screw it all together. So
yeah, I have the same problem as far as I think the wide angle lens makes my shop look bigger than what it is, but I have no room.
Yeah, I just built that Crown Royal ball, which I posted the video, and didn't get a chance to see it together until I put it together on the location. And I had this like extremely, like my heart fell into my pants because I looked up and I realized I thought I made a dramatic error in measuring. And then I realized, if you notice in the last piece, me and the guys climb up on the ladder and put literally the last part on the top of the middle light box. It was still packed in the box, and I looked up and I was like, oh my God, it's lower. It's supposed to be higher. I really, for a minute, thought like was the finished piece. It just, anyway, it's just because I hadn't assembled it yet, and that's how I thought it was. So it's a pain in the butt not being able to stage stuff until you're right there. It's really scary.
Yeah. That's a huge bar that you built.
Yeah, it was. Well, the back bar was 9 feet high and 12 feet wide altogether.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I could barely stand one of those pieces up in my shop. I mean, the light box, you saw how much room it took up in the actual workshop. And that was, a lot of people commented and said, did you ever get stuck with something in the workshop? Of course, Dave and I actually do dry runs. We'll literally carry something out before it has to be carried out to make sure we can carry it out on the delivery day. And that was one thing that we did do. We carried the light box up and out and made sure there was enough airspace around it, because we did add another 4-inch piece on the whole back. And so the delivery day, we carried it up first thing in the morning to make sure we can get it out. And I might have mentioned we had it all screwed together in the event that it didn't fit with the few final pieces so that we could dismantle it. But we got it up and out, and we had to put it in the crate on the sidewalk.
Does that draw a lot of attention?
No, I mean, no one cares. This is Manhattan. You could literally be, I was driving in Midtown today, past two guys fist fighting on the corner, and nobody was paying any attention.
Oh, wow.
So what does Crown Royal do with these displays once they're done?
They have a giant warehouse in New Jersey, and this marketing firm that I work for, that works for them, they keep everything at this big giant warehouse. And so I visited there when I dropped off some Johnny Walker stuff recently, and it's a big warehouse just full of displays, and everything's stretch wrapped and wrapped in blankets and stuff. So
it's got the Ark of the Covenant hidden in there too.
Absolutely. At least a prototype, or at least a prop of it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
With a logo on it. Some liquor logo on it.
David, what have you been working on?
Here in our living room, we just got all new furniture and new carpet and everything. And I didn't like the way my speakers looked for our entertainment center. They're Sony speakers, and they're less than a year old. So this week, I took them down into the shop, and I took a jigsaw and chopped them all up. And I'm rebuilding the casing for them, and using hickory and walnut plywood to get this contrasting look. It was kind of a scary moment because the speakers, although not real expensive, they were expensive enough to me to actually, like, that first plunge with the jigsaw into it. I'm like, I hope I'm not destroying anything. I'm hoping, because it's all glued together. You can't take them apart the way they're made.
Right.
And I'm almost done with that. I will have a video on it on Friday. It's not a how-to video. It's more of just a, hey, look what I did type video, And cool. I'm very happy with the result. It's going to look good. And that's going to lead to another project. Is I'm actually going to take my turntable in a couple weeks, and I'm going to get rid of it's a Audio Technica, and I'm going to get rid of the plastic casing, and I'm going to do a wood body for that as well. So
cool.
Oh,
yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, I don't know what this is called. Upscaling. I don't know, but I want to take some of the things that I have and just tear apart the cases and make new bodies for it. I picked up a couple old clocks from the antique stores a couple months ago with the idea of making a wood body for them. I think this is something I want to get more into, just.
That's good. It's a real good excuse for a project, is to take something and just revamp the whole thing completely and just use the electronics or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
It's a really good idea.
Speaking of electronics, have you looked into the new Make Electronics book that you were talking about?
Yeah. I got so Bob mentioned I got the Make Electronics book, which is kind of like a getting started in very basic electronics. And I got as far as to where I actually need to build something. And I asked my wife for the kits for Christmas. So I don't know if I should buy the supplies that I need or if I should wait till Christmas. I think she actually got me something else. So I'm not going to progress with that until after Christmas, when I know that I can start buying myself things again. So
Are you going to start with the Arduino? Is that what you're going to
no,
start?
no, even more simple than that. Just like breadboard, wires,
Oh, cool.
9-volt batteries and stuff. And then I want to
Oh, right on.
move to like Arduino and Raspberry Pi stuff. And
Right on.
those two things have different applications. And as we'll talk about later on in the show, that's some of my goals in 2015 is getting into some things I'm not very comfortable with. So
Yeah, that's great. That's really cool. So the subject of today's podcast is we're going to start with a little conversation about looking back at 2014 and some of the things we've accomplished, and then looking forward to 2015, some of the things we would like to try and accomplish. Bob, would you like to start the conversation?
Yeah, sure. Looking back, I was thinking about this ahead of time a little bit, and 2014 for me has been one of the craziest years of my entire life, in a good way. I've just had a lot of, personal growth and a personal change, like kind of refining and defining what I want out of my time and, prioritizing. I've gotten better at prioritizing, and that's been forced almost by the fact that I'm just piling things onto my life. And that sounds bad when I say it, but over the last year, I've decided more of the things that I really want to value and the stuff that it's really important to me to spend my time on. And, that's my family is a big part of that was already there. But then, my videos and my website and all that stuff is becoming a much bigger priority. And so as I add more things, I've had to start to tear away some stuff too. I've found some things that I've had to put to a lower priority and had to put them, they get less attention now. But so just in general, it's been a really interesting year for me to prioritize my time and prioritize the stuff that is worth pursuing for the future. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's easy to look at like right now and say the things that are important to me in this very moment are important to me for X reason. But over this last year, I've found that I'm defining the stuff that's important to me now for how it's going to affect me next year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. And that's been really interesting. That's kind of a new thing for me. But I've met tons of new people. I mean, you guys, I've met just tons of other creators on YouTube and gotten to be good friends with people that I have never met in real life. And, there's been a lot of really crazy opportunities and really crazy stuff that's happened over this last year. So it's been pretty wild. But what about you, David?
I'd have to say that 2014 is the absolute best year of my life. I started out, beginning of the year, I was working for an ad agency, and in January I started the weekly wrap-ups, and it kind of snowballed. It started to take off and people started to watch it. And then I started to do some project videos, and before you know it, I was like, hey, I think I want to do this full time. And so at the end of June, I quit my job, and now I guess I'm a YouTuber / blogger for a living, and I work for myself. I make less money. I think there's this people think like these YouTubers, they're making all kinds of money and they have all kinds of free time because they just make a video one day and then they have 6 days off. And quickly finding out that is not the case. I work way more hours than I did before, but it doesn't feel like work because I love absolutely everything that I do about making the videos, the filming, the editing, the projects, the back and forth with the community. I just love all that. So definitely the best decision I've ever made in my life was to quit my job. Even though I love my job, I love those guys, and I worked with such creative people and I learned so much from them. But best decision I ever made. Never would have dreamed I'd be where I'm at. This is like winning the lottery. So what that means is I can't work 89 hours a week for the rest of my life. So I gotta figure out how to organize myself a little bit better. So, when you start working for yourself, you got to kind of figure out what's working and what's not working, and make some audibles. And I'm working on that right now. And I got married, so that was a big plus.
Yeah.
And I talked in my the weekly wrap ups, I mentioned that starting this YouTube blogging thing was my biggest accomplishment. And there was a lot of people that said, your wife's going to be unhappy about you saying that because you got married.
Saw that.
And I was like, no, because getting married was just like the next natural progression in our life. And it was just a real easy thing to do. Quitting your job and working for yourself is not necessarily the easiest thing to do. So, 2014, absolutely great. And I'm hoping 2015 will be even better because I got big plans. I got a book deal. That was crazy. That's one of the things that started this back in the spring. I got a book deal. And
where are you with the book? I know you had to deliver chapters on a weekly basis.
Yeah, no. I wish we were done. The book comes out in August 2015, and I'm working on chapter 2 right now. Chapter 1 just got finalized as far as like layout and pictures and cut lines. Awesome. And so we're using that as a template for all the following chapters. So all the other chapters will be much easier, except the projects are more difficult. So,
right.
But yeah, it's a cool process. It's one of those things like, oh, this is taking up a lot of time. I didn't know it was going to take this much time to work on a book, but it's a lot of work. The publisher is Springhouse Press, and they are some awesome creative people. They have great feedback and great ideas. So,
very cool.
Yes, Jimmy.
Well, 2014, I can't complain. I got a lot done this year. I obviously get a lot done on a weekly basis, but when I look back at the whole year, you and I were talking just before we began, and David said to me, do you remember where we were last year? And last year I was building a restaurant, and I was very proud of the work I did, but every single time I had to go up to Midtown with my car and bring somebody with me to sit in my car. They wanted to open up January 1st, and I started the restaurant I guess in the middle of November, and I got paid less than what I did for the Crown Royal Bar, and it took me 4 months worth of work because after January I still had to go up there and do several things. So when I compare what I was doing last year to what I did this week, which is working the Crown Royal Bar, I'm getting a lot more for my money, for my time. And so if I can compare 14 to 13, I'm really happy about that. And hopefully this time next year, I'm getting paid a lot more for my time. So talk about, working for yourself. It's, sometimes you got to take those jobs that don't pay very well because there's nothing else to do. So it wasn't like I had to do that restaurant job or this one, which one pays better. I had no other option. So I did this restaurant job for the budget that was offered. It's all they could do. And I made it work, and it paid bills. And then now I'm working for, much bigger, more wealthier clients, and the money to them isn't as big of a deal, and it's a huge deal to me. Of course, every penny counts. So that's exciting. This year, I really made the determination that I need to move out of that shop, and that's another really important goal for me going into 15. In fact, just the other day, one of my fans on YouTube said my family owns 30,000 square foot book factory in Middletown, and it's for sale. You should go take a look at it. So Middletown is a town that's 70 miles north of New York City. So Taylor and I went this week and looked at it, and wow. I love it. I mean, I don't think I'm going to buy it just because, if anybody's ever dealt with getting a mortgage, it's like hell. It's the biggest nightmare. So I would have to do all that again, and I'm just not looking forward to that process. So Taylor and I kind of weighed the options, and, we decided to stay back on track with building a barn on the property that I already own. So, but it just won't be as fast, and that's the big problem. But I just got to deal with it. But just to talk about this cool old factory that I looked at, it's 30,000 square feet. It's encompasses 3 buildings. It's $150,000, which is really cheap. And it was made in 1900, and it looks like the set for Saw 10. It's incredible.
That's right up your alley.
I said to Taylor, this is crazy. And we were able to break in. The place has been abandoned for 15 years. And we were able to break in and walk around inside with a flashlight. And wow. Taylor was literally right behind me. If I walked 2 feet fast, she's like, "Where are you going? Get over here!" Because it was total blackness. And I was expecting to see a skeleton nailed to the wall, But it was really cool building. I don't know. That conversation's not totally dead yet, but the only thing that really turns me off is having to like change my whole circle of activity. Because right now I'm either in New York or I'm in Greene County, and we have that pretty mapped out. This would have to be it's actually in the vicinity of the Orange County Chopper guys, if everybody knows them in the world. They're like right in the neighborhood somewhere. Thinking about, I'm very happy with the results of YouTube that I've been getting. I've been getting lots of followers and lots of hits, and people ask me about TV all the time, and my comparison of my television experience to my YouTube experience, and YouTube is much more rewarding because it's just me. And one thing I've learned this year is that even small videos can make an impact. And a lot of time Dave reminds me, hey, why don't you make a video of that? And where in my mind I'm like, it's not going to be exciting. But then once I do the video, I realize, wow, there's lots of small things that I wouldn't even have planned on putting in the video if I thought about doing this. So many little tips and tricks come up while I work that it's hard for me to plan. I'm so used to doing some of these things my whole life. And so making a video about any silly, dumb thing, try and make it a cohesive story. Like if my workshop was a newsroom, I always say to Dave, what's the story? How do we make sure that it's like, beginning, middle, and end? And so once we figure that out, I get right into it. And so right now on my computer, I have about 5 videos that I started that I'm still waiting to finish. So that's exciting. I go from sometimes having no videos to having 5 half completed on my computer. And so that's good. I have 2 right now on my YouTube that are on private. I'm just waiting for people to sign off on them that I can make them public. So I'm really in a groove with YouTube, and I'm happy about that. And my intentions for TV are waning more and more, and I'm not really that interested in trying to get back on TV. The only thing about TV is just you have an instant audience, a much bigger audience, or at least it seems that way. But YouTube is a long, slow, steady rise, and I'm comfortable with it, and I'm becoming more acclimated to it as opposed to like trying to make the grand slam out of the park TV show, because I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. I mean, the type of TV show that I want to do never seems to be in the conversation with the people I meet. They all want this ensemble of crazy characters, the thing that everybody knows the TV is all about. And in fact, thinking of you two guys, we had conversations about television, and I turned off my cable in the last couple of weeks. So now I don't have Discovery Channel, I don't have History Channel or A&E anymore to watch, which is good because all the TV.
I think that's all 3 of us don't have cable, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I tweeted a couple weeks ago. Someone said, when are you going to get back on Discovery Channel? I said, I don't have Discovery Channel anymore, and I'm on YouTube now, and that's the future. And I think we're all here at a good time. It seems like it. The wave is really going.
To put you on the spot, if I can.
Yeah.
I know you've had TV show ideas. Have you ever thought about trying to get a crew together and just making it for YouTube?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I have a TV show. I have a brand new TV concept for a television show that I've pitched a few times. I've actually pitched it with my friend Nick Offerman, and he liked the idea, but he doesn't have time to do it. And, he said one day when things change, I'm not going to wait for that. I have an idea. It has less to do with woodshop and working and more to do with problem solving. And me and my good buddy Bobby, we planned on trying to shoot an episode of it in March in Louisville. So it's I don't want to talk about it because, until I can say, hey, the video's up this week. So that's going to strictly be for my YouTube channel. They're going to try and do like a 20-minute episode every couple of months. And it encompasses a couple of things I love, problem solving and collecting old cars. So
sweet.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's exactly what I want to do. I want to just, nurture my YouTube channel as like a small network and see if I can put up a couple of different episodes every few months. But of course, the woodshop stuff is just going to always be once a week, once every 2 weeks. And then Make Channel is always going to be there. As long as they had me, I'll be on there. And so unless something super special comes along with TV, every phone call I get from a producer just is going to be a dead end. I know it because they all have the worst ideas. And the TV business is just full of extremely uncreative people that accidentally get successful.
So we've all had good experiences in 14, right? Stuff's been growing for all of us. Things have been going, but not everything is good. So I'm curious if you guys can find one thing in the last year, maybe professional. Let's leave it at that. One professional thing that has just gone the way that you really didn't want it to go? Because I think there's a lot of value in finding the screw ups.
Yeah, for sure. Don't promise somebody something and then try and deliver it 18 months later. I'm finding that I took a down payment, a very big down payment for a job, and the client was the architects. I work with these guys. They're friends, and I really like them a lot. And their client changed his mind after I got this big down payment. And I was just one piece of this giant puzzle. I wasn't the job. They were on there all waiting for me. I was just one of 5 subcontractors. And so I found out I had months and months, literally a year went by. And then all of a sudden the phone rang and they go, hey, remember that project? You have to deliver right now. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm in the middle of 500 other things. And I said, well, Anyway, so right now I'm in the process of peeling away the end of that job. I did the beginning of it, which was a nightmare because I did it between 500 other things. And so now I'm trying to, one of the guys that I hang around with in my shop, who hangs around in my shop, he might finish up the job for me. And everyone's at the moment is happy. But that's just the one thing that's weighing on my mind is when you have one of those jobs that just hangs around and doesn't go anywhere. And I think I have an easy week. And then I'm like, oh, wait, I have to build this giant complex thing off of architect drawings and deliver it to the 6-story building. Mm. So, I just got to be more careful when I see a big down payment and I'm excited to say yes when the product isn't even designed yet. So I'm going to try and be more cautious to accept money when things aren't finished, being thought through. I guess that's the bigger point I just rambled on about.
That's tough. I know that you're not talking about ad agencies or, the marketing people, but and David, you're probably the same way. I've dealt with those type of agencies a lot, and you guys both have too. And there's a lot of flux in their projects. There's a lot of, room for things to change last minute. And almost every time I've done physical work, building something for an ad agency, some sort of campaign, it comes down to the very last minute, and there's changes coming in.
And you want to hear something funny on that subject? Sorry to cut you off. Dave and I packed up the Crown Royal bar into the 6 boxes, and we were all ready to go, getting ready. Well, we had to pack that last one on the sidewalk. It was the day before, and I got an email from the art director, and he said, "Okay, the color scheme is finalized on the bar. Here it is." And I opened the email, and I looked at it. I was like, "Okay." They wanted purple on a lot of accents on the bar. A lot of that trim, that crown molding that's in the video, they wanted it to literally be painted purple. And I looked at it and I said, I don't think it should be painted purple. And I have a perfectly good excuse. I wrote back to my art director, who's a nice guy. I have no problems with him at all. And I said, hey, dude, everything's in a box. I could paint it on the spot, but my honest opinion is I don't think it should be painted. And he said, all right, well, he was good about it. He goes, well, let's just take a look at it tomorrow. But there was that few minutes of oh my God, are we going to have to unpack everything and start painting colors that are going to ruin the beautiful, finish on this thing? Yeah. Anyway, I said, let's live it. Let's see it in this one spot. If need be, we'll set it up in the warehouse and we'll do it there. And so I'm just waiting for that conversation to happen. As of now, it hasn't happened, thankfully. So
I worked for an ad agency for 9 years, and it seems like it's not a successful project unless things were on fire at the end, and there were like everything was like an emergency, and the fire had to be put out. And at that last second, when it's complete, or when the trade show happens, or when the website launches, or whatever, that's when you step back and that was a great project. When you step away from that, you're like, whoa, we don't have to work that way. Not everything has to be a last second change. Man, I know exactly where you're coming from.
Well, you want to hear a funny thing? I showed up at the delivery of the Crown Royal bar, and we got it set up, and all the lights worked, and only one light bulb broke in transit, and they were able to send somebody out to buy a new one. And I turned to the woman, my contact person there, who was not integrally involved in the design of the whole thing. She was really there to facilitate the delivery and everything else on their end. And I said, where are the posters? And she goes, what posters? I said, you see those 2 big frames? I was told there were going to be posters here for me. She said, oh my God. And the show that we were there for literally was starting in 45 minutes. Whoa. She freaked out, made a bunch of phone calls and said, the posters will be here in an hour. And we waited, David and I, because I wanted the final money shot of the thing with the posters in it. I didn't know what they were going to be. I saw them on the original drawing, and I assumed they were going to be those. And the posters never showed up, and I had to leave. I mean, I said, I got to go. I can't wait around. And there was an assistant there, and I told the assistant how to put the posters in. And the next day I had school. So Dave went there at 8 a.m. to just help them pack it, to make sure they packed it correctly. And he said they put the posters in very badly. Oh. So I never saw a picture. He said he saw them like at the very last moment before they pulled the frames off and started to pack everything. So I never did see it. And he said he never had a chance to take a picture of it. He just said they put the paper on and then jammed the frames over the paper, as opposed to cutting it to fit underneath the frame.
Oh man.
So they jammed, like they basically put the paper over it, jammed it, and then like tore away what was hanging out. Something to the effect.
Aren't you glad you didn't see it then?
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, if I was there, I'm sure I would have been able to quickly make it look better. But the annoying thing was I never got a good, beautiful shot of it. But I anticipate helping set it up somewhere else one day and with the right branding.
Going back to Bob's question about what didn't you see coming, or things that didn't go as expected, and my channel had this like crazy rapid growth, like spring, early summer, and then I quit my job, and then all of a sudden that crazy rapid growth kind of stopped. And I just kind of assume like, okay, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to put more time into this, and the money is just going to flow right in. I don't, like the ad revenue is going to increase. Sponsors are going to be knocking on the door, and that didn't happen right away. And so I wasn't ever scared or worried, but I was kind of like, okay, I can't count on these other things. I can't count on just sponsors knocking on the door. So I started making more PDF plans and stuff, and figuring out other ways to make money. So I didn't really have any disasters or anything that didn't go completely wrong. I just kind of thought that it would just be an easier rollout into the new life. But I kind of had to make some last second changes, and all is good.
Well, it's funny, on a similar subject, somebody said, like, what's it like doing TV? You think you're going to do a TV show, and then the phone calls, Home Depot is going to call you and take you out to dinner the next day. That happened to me 5 times, and that never happened. So that's why I say YouTube is just a long, slow, steady growth, and it's more in line of like keeping things stable and easy.
So Bob, turn that question on to yourself. What about you?
It's funny. I asked that, and I feel like I probably should have had a really good answer, in the chamber for it, but I don't. I don't know. I've learned a whole lot of stuff about myself over the last year, and a lot of it's just due to, creating stuff and putting it out there. And I know when a lot of content creators talk about comments, specifically on YouTube, there's usually people that really care about it and people that really don't care about it. Now, that's a generalization, but a lot of people are very just like, yeah, I just delete the bad comments and I don't worry about them. And then to me, I've had a hard time doing that. And I may be opening myself up here to more of that negativity. I don't know. But I really value communication with people in these communities that we're a part of. And, overall, it's amazing. I mean, people are super positive, encouraging, and all that stuff. On occasion, though, some of the negativity that does creep in, it's had a bigger effect on me than I expected it to, honestly. Because I don't really, I'm not a person that cares too much about what people think of them. I know who I am. I know what I'm about. I know what I'm doing, and I'm very confident in that stuff. So I don't need the approval of people. But I was surprised at how a certain amount of negativity, in regards to the stuff that I've created, that's done purely for like the benefit of other people. Well, I don't say purely. I don't mean it that way. I mean, my goal is to teach people, right? To encourage people, to open people up to realizing that they're more capable than they realize. And with that goal in mind, to get some like attacking negative feedback, I guess it just caught me off guard, honestly. Yeah. But that type of stuff, and maybe my skin is not quite as thick as everybody else's, people can just like let it roll off their back. But I don't know. I think that was like the biggest, that's not really a problem or anything. It's just an observation about something I didn't expect, when all this positivity and all this growth is happening and all this amazing opportunities is happening and all this stuff, and then it gets tempered with like just a very small amount of this negativity.
Some moron with a wet diaper.
Yeah, and it's just I think overall I was just really surprised at how much that stuff got to me, and I'm learning to not let it get to me as much. I'm trying to.
Well, you know what I found, and maybe Dave, you could also include how you might handle it. I when somebody says something negative, I just immediately say, well, what's wrong with you? Why are you being so mean? And then they immediately go back, oh, I'm a big fan. I'm sorry. I'm like, why? It's like calling out the kid in the disruptive kid in the class and say, what's the matter? What's wrong with you? Instead of like being, you SOB, go jump in the lake. I just immediately answer back with like a very reasonable, why do you have to be so negative?
Yeah. It's one of those things that's it's hard to give advice because it affects everybody differently. Like I see a bad comment and 95% of the time I'm just like, that's hilarious. This guy's got problems. And I think, whatever. And sometimes I'll reply back and I'll be kind of a jerk. And then 45 minutes go by. I'm like, okay, I'm going to delete my comment and his comment. Cause I did that too. Yeah. Only a couple times has it really gotten to me, and that's been when somebody says, "Oh, you're the drunken woodworker. You make fun of alcoholism, and you are putting people in danger." And that's when, like, no, you don't. Obviously, you didn't watch the videos, or you don't get what I do. I'm crazy about safety. So everybody handles that difference. I don't think there's good advice that you can give to somebody else, because you just have to kind of learn to deal with it and learn that sometimes when somebody makes a comment on YouTube or on your website, tone is lost. And so you don't know if they're saying it in a funny way, or if they've had a bad day or whatever. So it's, you can ignore it, but sometimes you're trying to go to sleep and you're thinking about that stupid comment that why would anybody say that? And it's tough. And I think it's just one of those things that you get better at it. Yeah. And Steve Ramsey actually handles it really good, where I believe he says he will respond to comments for the first hour after posting a video, and then he doesn't read any of the comments after that. And because he knows that the first hour, that's his core fans. And they're going to be the people saying good job or giving actual good responses to his videos. So
I recently, about the time that I was dealing with a lot of that, and I was trying to figure out how to internally process it, right? I don't want to let it get to me, but I also don't want to be hard to the point to where I don't care about people's response, because some negative response is actually valuable. But anyway, so in part of trying to figure that out, I listened to another podcast called Back to Work. And if you guys have never heard Back to Work, it's really funny and at the same time really insightful. It's pretty
Hot Dogs Ladies.
Yeah.
What's his actual name?
Merlin Mann. He's a funny dude.
I could just hang out with that dude. I could tell.
So anyway, he made a point at one point, and he was talking about, he may have been talking about podcasting. I don't remember exactly, but he made some comment to the effect of, when you get this negative feedback, the stuff that's not helpful, the stuff that's just hateful, the stuff that's just aggressive, you have to remember that those people are not your audience. Your audience are the people that you're trying to reach that are affected in a positive way by what you're doing. That person was not affected in a positive way about what you were doing. And that may be your problem, that may be their problem, but the point of the thing is that's not who you're trying to target. That's not who you're trying to help. And as soon as I heard that, that was like a light switch, in my brain going, oh, I don't have to be what I want to be to every audience member. And I think that was like a kind of letting myself off the hook. It's okay if this person doesn't get what I do, doesn't like what I do, because they're not the person that I'm trying to reach. And I don't know, that had a pretty big impact on me.
That's being
able to
point.
frame it that way,
Yeah, that's a great point. And Steve Ramsey and I once had a conversation privately through email, and he basically said something similar to me where, if they're not your fans anyway, so it doesn't matter what they think. And it was a good point. If somebody just gets to me, like sometimes people just really like get at me, and I try to just delete them. I mean, I remember Jay said that too. Jay Bates said just delete them, and I try and keep that as much as possible. Once in a while, though, and Taylor sees me. She could tell like when I'm fiddling at the computer. She knows what I'm up to. She's like, "Don't answer him. Just delete it." So
yeah, it's the safest way, probably. Well, we don't have to dwell on that too long, but I think that's, for me, that was a big thing, a big negative thing that I wasn't expecting, but also coming to that realization about, who my audience is. No matter what you're creating, I think that same principle applies, whether you're, writing a book or doing web stuff or doing podcasting or whatever it is. You have a certain type of group of people that you're trying to reach. And the other people that are not in that group are just not worth, their displeasure is not worth your concern. And so I think that was good. But anyway, so let's move on. Let's go to looking ahead.
Yeah.
David, 2015. What are you looking forward to? What's going to happen? What are where are you going?
I am a true believer in always believing that you need to learn something new. You need to expand on your knowledge and what you do. So 2 things that I really want to get into. One is welding, and something I want to incorporate into my woodworking, like table legs and stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't do that until the spring because I didn't know anything about welding until a couple weeks ago. And I realized I can't do it in my basement. So I got to wait until it warms up and I can clean out the garage and I can do it out there. And then I want to also get into some basic electronics. I don't even know what I want to do with electronics. I just want to have that knowledge so I can apply it to potential projects or solve potential problems.
Yeah.
And,
have you ever made a lamp?
Funny you say that. The 3 of us started a collaboration project.
Did we all start, really?
I didn't.
I know I did, but
my project was a lamp, and I have all the parts for it. But it was like I bought the socket and the wire itself, and the switch. We'll talk about that in a future podcast when we progress with that. Yeah. So. I thought we have we don't have curtains. We have blinds in the house where you have to turn the rod like 15 times for the blinds to open. I thought, what if they were all hooked up like Bob's dust collection system, where you hit a button and all the blinds in the living room open at one time?
Oh, right on.
And it's not a necessary project, but it's something to it's a problem. It's not really a problem, but it's something that it's a goal. It's a goal. Yeah, it's a need. And so maybe that's one of the first projects that I do. So
I got an idea. Right. You can take it one step further.
Hit me.
Give you something else to learn.
Yeah.
A photo sensor that detects whether the sun is outside. Opens and closes them automatically with the sun.
Ooh. See, I like this. Ooh. And this is why I do the podcast with you guys. Yeah, so I just want to expand my knowledge and also, of course, expand the viewers and the followers and try to reach out more. So just the natural growth stuff. So,
yeah.
Jimmy, what about you? 2015.
Well, one of my biggest goal right now is to try and find a new space to work in. And it's likely going to be something that I build on my property, which is something I've obviously talked about. So that's definitely one of the goals in 15 is to try and find a new space to work in. And I really feel that once I have a space to work in, I could expand a lot. Just like an animal in a small cage. When you put an animal free range, I think he could do a lot. And that's what I really feel like I'll be able to do. And I'm really thinking about getting a laser. And that's really something that I want to work on. I've been doing some research and looking at other people online. And I follow a couple people on Instagram that have a laser, and they basically make a whole career just with one laser, and you could basically build a whole business. And if I had it, it would just be a supplement to my business, but I really feel strongly about it, and just getting more into the digital fabrication and being able to build anything at any time, in any capacity. And that's really, 2015. That's what it looks like for me. New space, new laser.
Bob.
I wish I had a laser in my future. That would be awesome, but I don't. I have so many exciting things for 2015. I am just truly excited about possibilities. I think my goals, we talked about goals before, but one of the things I really am planning on, and I hope works out, is trying to figure out maybe a dangerous thing to say, but a different balance between my day job and my YouTube web stuff. I want to figure out how to do this more, like I would love for us to be able to have the capacity and have the reason to do this show more often. I would love to be able to do videos more often. I would love, all that stuff. And I think those things are possible, but for my life and the amount of stuff that is in it, for that to work, I just have to really, I have to make that happen. That stuff's not going to happen on its own. So 15 is, I think, going to be a lot of me setting up my structures and getting my, just making stuff the way that I want to make it. I have a lot of other types of videos that I would like to be able to do, but I know that if I were doing them instead of project videos, then, the expectation on my channel now would change. I want to be able to add those, not replace what I currently have with them. So hopefully 2015 will give me the freedom to hone things and add things and do more of the things that I'm already doing.
Oh, speaking about videos, sorry to cut you off, but one of the things I wrote down and I forgot to mention is at 15, I want to start my tips, my tips on my videos. So you're talking about trying to introduce some new videos. That's something I want to do. Is I have my book of ideas that I think I might have talked about on the Brain Pick, and I haven't shot any of those yet. And David and I have been talking about how to shoot those. So that's something I want to work on.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I feel like I have so much to learn from both of you. So just to hear what you guys got going on in the future is pretty darn inspiring, because we all three come from different backgrounds, and I think we learn from each other, and as we're doing this, we're sharing it with everybody else. So
right on.
It's going to be a good year.
Yeah, I can't wait to watch you weld something. I'm excited to see what you weld.
Yeah, the plan is the very first time I ever try to weld something will be on camera. So even if it's a complete failure, so it's still going to go up on YouTube. So
it won't be a failure. It'll just be a step towards learning how to do it right. That's all.
I like your attitude.
Yeah. Bob, are you going to weld too? Did you get involved in welding in any way?
I've done some in the past, and I would like to. I have a welder.
Right on.
I definitely want to. It's just on my list of. Oh, and another goal, and that just leads me to another goal or a thing that I definitely want to accomplish. I'm gonna build my arcade machine. My arcade cabinet is gonna happen in 2015. So
that arcade machine has been on my to-do list for about 5 years, even before I got into woodworking. And I think we've talked about this before. But you wanted to take a more advanced approach, where I was going to buy the X-Arcade controller and then use a PC and just build the cabinet. But you actually want to build the controller, correct?
Yeah, it's already done. I've got I've got 2 blog posts on my site that show the entire process. It's a Raspberry Pi as the brain, and it does all the computation because it's way more powerful than any of those machines were back in the day. Yeah. And then I just bought joysticks and LED lit up buttons and wired it all together, and it's surprisingly easy to do it that way. And I don't know that it's any cheaper to do it that way than to do it like by just buying a USB controller or anything. But I'm going to be able to lay out the control boards exactly how I want them, and I plan on using my CNC to route some cool stuff around the controls and maybe inlay some EL wire, like the light up wire, and I've got tons of stuff that I want to add to it. So that's part of why it's taken me so long, because I keep looking at it and going, oh, well, wait, I could have it, the cabinet could react to you when you walk up. And, it could act differently if my kids walk up versus when I walk up, or, that type of thing. So there's one side that's really, really simple. And then there's the other end of the spectrum where it's like doing facial recognition and playing different games when you walk up, or like, my kids have to put in coins and,
Oh, wow.
It goes crazy. So, yeah.
And as far as the games on there, are you thinking 80s arcade games or?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. It the Raspberry Pi is a cool computer for what it's doing, but it's not terribly powerful. So it's processor, at least the one that I have, which is not the newest one, is capable of running, I think, all the systems up to a PS1. So it'll do like Super Nintendo, all those. So anything lower, older than that, it can definitely run. Any of the big console, the actual cabinet games that you would have played in the arcade. It runs all those really well.
Awesome.
And I had it set up at Maker Faire and this last year, and it was full the entire time. Kids for adults like my age would come up and like bring their kids, and they would just be like smiling watching their kids playing, Mario or, Galaxia or whatever it was. And the kids are just like, what is this game? I've never seen these things before, these like old 80s games. And so I was really blown away at how much interest there was in that system, which gave me even more interest to make a video about it, because I think a lot of people don't know about the blog posts that I have that explain the electronics process. So hopefully the video building the cabinets will kind of draw some people back to that.
I'm totally lost when it comes to electronics. I'll leave it up to you guys. I mean, I could wire a lamp, obviously, but that's about the end of it for me.
Yeah, it's just one of those things you could learn if you wanted to, if it was valuable to you, for sure.
Yeah. No, there'll be a project one day. I started with a Arduino, and I didn't get too far with it, but I was able to, do the blinking light and a couple things. And there'll be a day when I'm going to need it, and I'm just going to go right back to it.
I had
a couple hours.
Yeah. The first time I bought an Arduino when they first came out, because I was just really interested, and it sat on my shelf for at least 6 months before I did anything with it. And I just couldn't think of a good idea. I didn't really want to waste my nights like making LEDs blink. Even though that's a necessary step. I was just like, I need to have an idea. I work better to learn things when I have an idea that I'm chasing, and then I can, I can actually find what I need to know to make that thing happen. And so it took me a long time to even come up with an idea. And finally I did. And I was pursuing this idea, and then I ended up building a wall. What I was going to do in my shop office room is a 2-car garage. It was open in the middle, and there were these metal posts that went up floor to ceiling, for supports. And so what I was going to do was mount a computer monitor on one of these posts, and then use some infrared sensors on the top of it, and build like a mount that could swivel 360 to mount the TV. And so basically the TV would be looking around the room for an infrared signal for a person, when it saw me, it would rotate itself around the pole to face me. And the idea there was that, well, if I'm in the shop and I want to watch Netflix, or I'm shooting video and I need the video. They
make that now. There's a device that's out now.
Oh, I'm sure they do. But, this was like, hey, I can do that with an Arduino. And actually, I prototyped it with the sensors and had it lighting LEDs to show like which way the rotation would happen and all that stuff. So, I mean, the concept was there, and it was possible. And then I ended up building a wall right around that beam, so I don't have the opportunity to use it anymore. But, for me, it was one of those things where it sat there until I had a good idea. And then I was able to, in 2 nights, write the code for it, figure out the wiring, and it was not a big deal. But
that's cool. There's a tripod out now for the people that film themselves motorcycling and skateboarding and stuff, and the tripod head will follow you if you have the receiver in your pocket.
That's a goal for 2015, is to get one of those. They're $400.
Yeah,
and I want one for the shop to follow me from it looks so awesome.
A former student of mine is the art director at that place.
No,
that's how I know about it. Yeah, he sent me an email, and in his email was that, I forget what the name of the company is. I wish I knew it. Do we know what it is?
It's funny. Bob and I just shared the link with each other a couple days ago, and I can't recall the name of the company.
Well, it'll be in the show notes. Anyway, so my student John works there, and he's the art director. And since I saw his email, it's popped up in the beginning of a few YouTube movies as far as a commercial.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
It's a great device.
Yeah, I think that's a good spot to wrap it up for the night. We also wanted to announce a new thing that we're doing to get some support for the show. We found out pretty quickly that doing the show that it actually costs us money. We have to host these files. And having you guys download them and listen to them is totally awesome, but it also costs us money. So we set up a Patreon page which is a place that you can go and become a patron of the show. Basically, you commit to how much money you want to spend, $1 or whatever, per episode. And then when we post a new episode at the end of the month, you get charged however much you committed, times each episode. So it's a great way for you to support us. And we also have some perks on there. So when you sign up at different levels, you get different acknowledgments. Like if you're a $5 contributor, then your name will be in the show notes for every episode that you support. If you're a $10 supporter, then we're going to say your name in the episode, and we're going to do that right now. I want to thank Nicholas Gomez, Joseph Munch, I'm not sure how to say your name, Andreas Eckberg, Charlie Grauer, and Colby Beam. Those guys are above and beyond awesome supporters. So thank you guys for supporting this episode of Making It. And
I'd like to, can I just interrupt? I'd like to say thank you. Of
course.
Thank you to Charlie Grauer, who is one of my shop mates. And you can check out his work at walkingwoundednewyorkcity.com. He's a good buddy of mine. Charlie, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, and we'll have a couple more in the show notes, too, for the $5 contributors.
And just for the record, Joseph, he sent me an email earlier today on how to pronounce his last name. And I don't actually have it in front of me right now. But which Joseph, I'm sorry. You are such a huge supporter of the show and everything I've done, and I really appreciate what Joseph has done this year. So I promise the next time we're going to pronounce Joseph's name right. It's a hard name to say. So
that's a goal for 2015, getting Joseph's last name right.
Yeah, actually, I'm looking at the calendar, and we actually have one more show on December 31st, which would be New Year's Eve. So okay. I don't know if we'll get a show recorded that day, but we'll see. We'll see.
I'll be here.
I'll be here too. So.
All right, well, let's do it then. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for us, guys. Thank you so much for listening. And
thank you.
As always, you guys are awesome, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers.